The Polaroid is developing in my hand, but the image isn't right. In this ordinary suburban street photo, there's a face pressed against a second-story window that shouldn't be there. Every house on this block was empty that afternoon. I checked them all myself. Yet this photo shows someone watching me from a house that had been boarded up for years. The air around me suddenly carries the scent of damp plaster and something metallic, like old copper. My fingers feel sticky where they touch the photograph's edge, though it came fresh from the camera. From somewhere in the empty street comes a faint scratching sound, like nails on glass. And the face in the window? It's not just watching, it's smiling. It was a normal little town. I captured this just yesterday. The footage is grainy, but the memory is searingly clear. That familiar street, bathed in light, feels impossibly distant now. A faint, coppery scent seems to linger on the photograph's edge. A red mailbox stands stark against the empty street. Now, watch closely. The hand turns the Polaroid over, then flips it back. In the same photo, the street is now completely empty. The mailbox has vanished. The houses have vanished. The trees stand as bare, skeletal outlines against a washed-out sky. The red mailbox is now a rusted, hollow husk, its color bleeding into the surrounding decay. This is what unfolds every single night. This is what happened to my brother. This is the story of Fallcreek, Oregon, the town that doesn't want to be remembered. The backstory, a montage of cheerful, sunlit photos. This was Jake, 28, always chasing the next adventure. And this was me, Leo, 30. The one who always hesitated before following.
My brother Jake was a digital nomad, his life curated for Instagram feeds. He chased national parks, ghost towns, and bizarre roadside attractions.
This place, Fallcreek, was a blip he dug up from some obscure online forum. Now we were at a canyon's edge, in a bar. Maps spread before us like an omen. The online posts were unsettling. Murmurs of film sickness and digital ghosts. Jake dismissed it as another creepypasta, a weekend diversion into the strange. But the text from his friend carried an unexpected weight. Dude, this place is quiet. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and decay, as if the silence itself had texture. The stillness was unnerving, almost palpable, as the locals' hollow gazes followed every movement. Yet at golden hour, the light transformed the eerie scene into something surreal and beautiful. The contrast between the unsettling silence and the breathtaking illumination created a profound unease. This was a place where beauty and dread existed in perfect, unnerving harmony. Gonna get some killer shots. Back Sunday, Jake, that was his last message to me. When Jake didn't return, I drove out to find him. The air carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone and damp earth. The police insisted he'd simply gone off-grid, but I knew Jake intimately. He was the type to call, to post, to leave a digital echo. His absence wasn't just silence. It was a void where his constant digital presence should have been. The air in his apartment carried the stale scent of abandoned spaces and the faint metallic tang of something I couldn't identify. Every surface felt wrong, not just untouched, but deliberately emptied of his energy, his essence. It was his oxygen. His car pulled into Fallcreek, a town that looked idyllic at first glance. Clean streets, painted houses, and flower boxes created a perfect facade, but the air carried a faint, sweet scent of decay beneath the floral perfume. The town lay utterly still. No children playing, no cars moving, not even the distant hum of a lawnmower. As our car crept forward, a lone figure on a porch slowly pivoted his head to follow our progress. The air carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone, as if a storm had just passed without a drop of rain. It was pleasant in the way a dentist's waiting room is pleasant. Sterile, quiet, and thick with unspoken dread. Everyone was polite, but their eyes were flat and empty, like polished stones. When I asked about Jake at the diner, the waitress Sarah offered a smile that never reached her eyes. A faint scent of old grease and stale coffee hung in the air, thick and heavy. Her movements were efficient, mechanical, devoid of any human warmth. The polite chatter around me felt rehearsed, a script everyone knew but didn't feel. It was the stillness beneath it, the hollow quiet in a room full of people, that tightened my chest. Her gaze finally met mine, and in that flat, empty stare, I didn't see a person looking back. I saw a door, shut and locked, hiding something I wasn't meant to find. Sarah's voice was flat, rehearsed, like she'd practiced this answer. Oh, the young man with all the cameras? Sure, I saw him. Her words hung in the air, carrying the faint, metallic scent of a lie. He left Sunday morning, said he was headed for the coast, but she refused to give a single detail, her silence thick and deliberate. That's when the realization began to creep in. I scanned the diner walls, then the hardware store across the street, both barren of photographs. Not a single image hung anywhere, as if this place had no past to display. The air grew heavy with the scent of stale coffee and something faintly metallic, like old pennies. No family photos, no wedding portraits, just bare, sterile walls. The space was too orderly, too clean. Every object placed with unsettling precision. A faint, chemical scent, like bleach and ozone, hung in the stagnant air. This wasn't a home. It was a stage, meticulously set, waiting for its performance to begin. He discovered Jake's backpack. Inside lay 3 digital cameras, 2 phones, a GoPro, and a vintage Polaroid one-step. Every device was fully charged, their screens faintly illuminating the bag's interior with an unnatural glow. The realization settled in his gut like a stone. Jake would never have left this behind. I powered on the camera. The SD card was completely full. The final photo was timestamped Saturday, 11:57 p.m. It showed the main street from his porch. The air carried the metallic tang of ozone and something faintly decaying. Everything looked normal at first. Leo scrolled back through the photos. The diner, the woods, the old mill, they were all there, just as he remembered. But as he flipped through them, a subtle wrongness began to surface. The air in the room grew dense and stale, carrying the faint metallic scent of old film. Something in the familiar images had shifted, leaving a cold, creeping unease in its wake. The colors leached away, frame by frame. The earlier photos looked drained, like fading memories. Then I tried the Polaroid. It had 1 shot left in it. I pointed it out the window. At Sarah's house across the street, the air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and old, damp paper. SNAP-WHIRR. I watched the image emerge in chemical silence. Her house materialized through the chemical fog, that bright yellow door burning through the emulsion like a warning. The scent of developer chemicals clung to my hands as I placed the photograph on the wooden table. I turned away to make coffee, the weight of that yellow door already settling in the room's atmosphere. Leo's hand reached for the Polaroid on the table, its edges curling inward. The vibrant yellow door in the photo had become a peeling, ash-gray slab. Where cheerful flowers once bloomed, only brittle, blackened stems remained in the window box. A metallic, coppery scent seemed to rise from the photograph itself. This was no faulty film. A chemical flaw in the film emulsion forced me to try again. So I returned to the abandoned church, camera in hand. I framed the crumbling steeple once more, my breath hitching as the shutter clicked. This time, I never let that spire leave my sight. A primal dread taking hold as the air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and damp stone. I held the object in my palm, transfixed. For that first minute, nothing seemed amiss. Then, a change began, subtle, then undeniable. It was like witnessing decay accelerated, time itself unraveling before my eyes. The white paint deepened into a sickly, jaundiced yellow, and a faint, acrid scent of ozone and old chemicals pricked the air. Wood splintered. Then the clock face fractured with a sickening crack. Leo's breathing hitched, ragged and frantic as he bolted outside into the fading twilight. He snapped picture after picture. The flickering street lamp, a shadowed truck, the rusted "Welcome to Fallcreek" sign. The air carried the metallic tang of ozone and the faint scent of damp earth, thick with gathering dread. He arranges them on the car's hood, a grim gallery of fading memories. One by one they erode, their forms withering into indistinct shapes. It wasn't deleting them, it was revealing the truth of this place, showing what it becomes when no one is watching. A hollow, forgotten space. The question lingers, heavy in the air. When the people go inside, what comes out? That night, Leo sat alone in the cabin. Old photographs scattered around him like forgotten ghosts. Then, a sound, not an animal, a soft, deliberate scratching at the door. The air grew thick, and a scent of damp earth and rust seeped through the wood. Leo froze. The photographs forgotten, delicate, like fingernails. He peers through the peephole. The porch stands empty, but on the wooden deck, just visible, are wet footprints. They were materializing one after another, a spectral procession leading away from the door. I needed proof, something it couldn't erase. I grabbed Jake's GoPro, its weight cold and solid in my damp palms. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and old rot as I aimed it through the glass at the empty main street. I hit record, concealed it within the heavy curtains, and slipped into my car, the silence pressing in like a physical weight. My plan was to drive to the county line and call the FBI. The engine coughed to life, its mechanical growl harsh in the unnatural quiet. Twin beams of light carved through the dense, suffocating fog that hugged the ground. Beyond the light, the town lay entombed in darkness. Every window a vacant, black eye. The headlights swept past the diner. For a single, fractured moment, the beams caught Sarah on the roof. She wasn't inside. She was outside, facing the road. Her stillness absolute. A wave of nauseating dread locked my muscles. My foot slammed the accelerator. The escape route was a straight 3-mile shot through endless pines. I drove for 10 frantic minutes, but the dense wall of trees never yielded. The air grew thick with the scent of damp bark and cold earth. A creeping realization settled in my gut. This road had no end. Leaving Fallcreek. Sign never materialized. I was on a loop, right back at the town limits. The engine sputtered, choked, and fell silent. Then, absolute quiet. A cold, damp air seeped into the cabin, carrying a faint scent of ozone and wet earth. A primal, gut-deep dread took hold. I was trapped. Then, in the woods, a rustle. Not wind, it was a syncopated, dragging sound, like many things moving slowly, out of step. A damp, earthy scent of rot and wet soil suddenly thickened the air, cold and clinging, my breath hitched, every muscle tensing as the dragging sounds drew closer, uneven and deliberate. I looked at my phone. The screen's glow felt dangerously bright, a beacon in the swallowing dark. The screen showed no signal, yet the camera app remained open. I slowly panned the device toward the dark tree line. In the screen's ghostly green glow, shapes began to resolve. Then I saw them. Dozens of them stood among the pines, the people of Fallcreek. Their faces were blurred on the screen, like a persistent glitch, but their bodies were clearly visible. Each form was twisted and elongated, limbs stretching into impossible angles. The air carried the scent of ozone and damp earth, as if the forest itself held its breath. They weren't walking, they were. Unfolding from the shadows, there forms a silent, liquid darkness. Leo's mind went blank, a primal terror overriding all thought. He abandoned the car, its engine still idling uselessly. He crashed back into the cabin, the air inside thick with the scent of old wood and damp earth. Fingers fumbling, he barricaded the door, the sound of his own frantic heartbeat pounding in his ears. He remembers the GoPro, his hands trembling as he connects it to the laptop. The night vision footage flickers to life on the screen. At 2:13 a.m., the front doors of every house on the street begin to open simultaneously and soundlessly. The air in the room grows thick, with the scent of ozone and damp earth as he watches. The residents filed out in perfect unison. Moving to the center of the street, they formed a precise grid, their collective gaze fixed upon the cabin with unsettling stillness. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, like rusted iron. Then, as one, they raised their arms in a single, fluid motion that defied natural movement. Not in menace, but in a gesture that looked like surrender, or perhaps release. Then, the town behind them began to waver. It wasn't a heat haze from the sun, but a cold distortion seeping from the ground itself. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone, an ancient, damp stone. The houses lost their solidity, colors draining first to gray, then to a photographic negative of reality. The people themselves began to pixelate, dissolving into the disintegrating world around them. For 5 agonizing minutes, the screen showed only a swirling, silent vortex of gray noise. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and something metallic, while a palpable dread settled in the silence. Then, with glacial slowness, the street begins to reconstitute itself, like a canvas being meticulously repainted by an unseen hand. The figures lower their stiff arms in eerie unison, and, one by one, march silently back into the darkened doorways of their homes. A realization dawns, cold and absolute, cutting through the fog of confusion. They're not erasing this place from existence. Every single night, they are the only thing holding its crumbling reality together. Each dawn, they must painstakingly remember the town back into existence, but any memory that captures its true face is violently purged. Jake didn't leave. He lingered one snapshot too long. Now, only the faint scent of ozone and the echo of a shutter click remain. He witnessed what stirs after dark and was consumed by the forgetting. In the early light, Leo was hollowed out, clutching the single Polaroid that ignited this descent. The air smells of damp earth and the faint, metallic tang of dried ink. Every ragged breath is a struggle, as if the very atmosphere has grown thick and reluctant. He peers through the glass. Outside, Sarah tends her garden, her smile unnervingly vacant. The town has been restored to its flawless, eerie perfection. I'm leaving this recording and this photo on a cloud server, scheduled for upload. Perhaps their influence couldn't penetrate the digital cloud. I wasn't sure. The air in the car felt thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and old leather. He slid into the driver's seat, the vinyl cold and sticky against his skin. This time, the engine turned over with a reluctant growl that broke the oppressive quiet. The empty road stretched before him as the "Leaving Fallcreek" sign shrank in his rearview mirror. He released a ragged breath, the tension in his shoulders easing for the first time in hours. Then static crackled across his phone screen before it flickered back to the live dashboard view. The sudden electronic glitch left a metallic tang in the air, like ozone after a lightning strike. I made it out. The familiar hum of I-5 asphalt vibrates through the steering wheel, but the air tastes metallic, like old pennies and static. Every mile marker feels like a fragile thread back to normalcy. I'm going home. Leo reached for his coffee. As his hand passed before the phone's lens, the video flickered for a single, impossible frame. In that fractured moment, the sunlit highway vanished, replaced by a suffocating tunnel of dark, crowding pines. The vision was gone as quickly as it came, and Leo, oblivious, simply took a sip of his coffee. A slow, clean smile touches his lips. If I can just forget what I witnessed, maybe I'm already starting to. The memory feels distant, like a fever dream. Just a bad dream. A strange emptiness filled my mind as I realized I couldn't picture my brother's face. The purpose of this drive evaporated from memory like morning mist. My gaze drifted to the passenger seat, where a single Polaroid lay gleaming in the dashboard light. The paper felt unnaturally cold, and I caught the faint, sharp scent of developing chemicals. Leo's fingers trembled as he lifted the photograph. It was a picture of this very car, taken from outside just last night. There he was, slumped at the wheel, and in the background stood the "Welcome to Fallcreek" sign. The paper felt cold against his skin as his smile dissolved into nothing. He glances up into the rearview mirror, and there, reflected in the glass, sits the blurred, glitching outline of a figure directly behind him. Its head cranes at an unnatural angle, the image flickering like corrupted data. The video feed fractures into digital snow before cutting to absolute blackness. A final, fading whisper hangs in the void. You can look at a photo, but sometimes, the photo is also looking back. Don't search for Fallcreek. It might just remember. It could recall the scent of your home, the static in your air, the shape of your shadow against the blinds, and then, it might decide to find you.